Hello and welcome. On this episode of Updating the Gatsby Starter Blog Theme, we are going to be changing and looking at our CSS. Now, this is going to be my last video for this series for a while, but I just wanted to touch on the CSS before leaving you for a minute. I'll be back. I will be making updates, but I'll get into that further in the video. So looking at my screen, I have, let's look at what we have. So on our index.in, so if you go to your local host, 8000, you'll see this is what we have so far. We have our homepage, or about, our work, our blog, and then our blog has its own layout. Little our bio at the bottom. Each work post doesn't have anything right now because I don't have anything in it. My work posts don't have anything in it because I haven't added anything yet. So if you were to add anything, it would be very similar to this blog layout. Yeah, and that is the premise of our layout. And I just wanted to touch on the CSS and the styling of how I did this and the reason behind everything. So we're just going to be looking at the code basically, because the site is pretty much done. I would say it's 95% done. It just needs 5% of customization from all of you. I have been updating my own version, and I plan on putting this out for everyone else to have. So, but I'll touch on that further. Let's dive into the code. So we have our index.js file, and if you have it already, we want to import our global CSS file. So that's global.css, and that we're having that in our components. So there might be, I could probably put this in a better folder, but I'm just putting it in my components for now. I might, maybe in the future I'll make a styles folder. But I'll let you, the reason why I didn't do that, I'll let you know in the in one of our pages in components. So we want to make sure that oops, I think I deleted it. I did. Oh no. Okay, we want to make sure that our global CSS file is imported on every page, because what the global file will do, bring it up, it will hold everything that can be applied to any page, or is fine to be applied to any page. And we can overwrite them, all these styles, we can overwrite them on each individual component and or page. Hopefully that makes sense. So a prime example is using these variables of colors. So this is the CSS variables. It's not that new, but I just recently found out about it, and it's very easy. I'm gonna make a blog post about this as part of this Gatsby starter theme, and I will be making blog posts as well as videos. So, you know, watch out for that. Watch out. Wow. So we have the root this is how you make the variable in CSS. And this isn't Gatsby, this is just plain old CSS. And it's amazing, and I would love to be using this, but so you can see I can use, this is a variable if I do a find, and you'll see this is how you do it. So you do a var in parentheses dash dash name of the variable. And for the, I guess, element selector, it's :root. Yeah. So that's how you make CSS variables. Extremely easy. So this is a prime example of a global style. This, I can use this on any page. If I want to use orange, in this case, I'm using it for any anchor that has the class of orange, and I'm using it on a hover, and it's before. So I'm doing it on, I'm using this before because I want to underline something but I want to do a special animation on it. So for that, I have to use the before. And then also an anchor, if it has the class of orange and active, it will be underlined, or it'll have the color of orange. So I can use that, and it can be applied to anywhere on the site, and I don't have to use a style component. And so a style component is the next thing I want to talk about. I've decided to use styled components. So let's use bio, for example. Do I have a style component? Yes, I do. So on this style on the bio.js style component, you'll see it's imported. Where is it? Right here. So I named it styled, and it's coming from the styled components plugin. So I already added that in, and if you scroll down, this section right here, where all the styling is, with a constant, so that is a styled component, and it has a little different syntax, but for the most part, this is just CSS. There's no, you can see I get to use the dashes instead of doing, I know in React they do like an uppercase letter, right? So it might look like this, margin left, but for this it's just, it looks like plain CSS. And what you're doing is you're putting this into a variable, and the styling will be rendered, created before, like on render, so like before page load. And that's what makes it possible. We'll just do bio container. So we have a const variable name, bio container. This can be named anything, and we're using the styled name that we got up here. And in this case, I'm using this as a div. So it's kind of like an element as well as style, or as along with styling. So this is a div element that I want to use, and then within that div element, it will have the display of flex, margin bottom with this rhythm, justify content, align items, and then you can also do media queries, and you can kind of like Sass, you can inherit elements. So if I had, say I had an element of like an anchor tag, I could also put in here, I could do an A, what is that, curly brace? Yeah. And then I could type something in here. I wouldn't type that, I would do no. So yeah, I would have an element in here, and that would work fine because this is all pre-rendered. So it's also like Sass. I don't know if you've ever used that, but that was a great thing for a hot take. I don't know what happened to it. I loved it, but I never had to use it at work. So hopefully that makes sense. And then so that's the idea of a style component. Oh, another key important thing about style components is the reason we use them is because they're scoped to this component, meaning whatever I put in here under bio container, all of this styling, it will be contained to this component. And I could use the same constant on a different component and it would work fine. So that's what makes it so great. You don't have, the styling you're using, and it's not overriding other styling on different components. And that's, it's compartmentalized. Compartmentalized. That is what it does. So all the styling is compartmentalized to this component. So if we do a find here, you'll see where it's used. And so this is a div, right? So the bio container, just imagine it saying div. and it's saying div style equals, and then all of that in here is in there. So that's what that does. The beauty of it is that when it gets compiled down and rendered, it's inline. Bio container, it's like a div, and it has all of the styling inline. Okay, so that's style components, and I use that throughout my site, and it worked out well. I'm relatively new to the style component, but I really like it, and I plan on using it, I was thinking, forever. So we have the global CSS, we have the style components. The other thing I wanted to talk about is the Typography.js. So this came out of the box with the Gatsby starter blog theme. The creator of Gatsby also, I believe, created this or used this. I don't know if he created it, but he made it popular by including it within the Gatsby. So I thought, this might be good to learn. I like the idea behind it. It's pretty simple, and the important thing for this is you have to be all in on it. You can't just use it here and there, or else it doesn't do its purpose. The idea is this: it's broken up into two things: rhythm and scale. That's the premise of the Typography.js idea. Let's talk about rhythm. Rhythm. When you think of the rhythm, you just think of the line height. And I think that has to do with typography and graphic design. I'm not sure, don't quote me on that. Rhythm is the line height. And so I set a base line height of 1.5. If I go anywhere on my site and I do a rhythm of 1, it will, right here, rhythm of 1. That's a line height of 1.5. And see, it's here as well, rhythm. Or the idea is you use that wherever you would use margin and wherever you would use padding. So that way, the site scales accordingly. And it'll all look proportional because it's all based on line heights. Now, I am very much guilty of having not used this throughout my entire site. But it doesn't mean I won't go back and fix it. It doesn't mean that. Especially if I'm gonna offer this for other people to use, I wanna make sure this is in tip-top shape. Tip-top. So that is line height. You wanna use, rhythm. Rhythm is line height, and just think of margin, padding, line height for text. Okay, the other one is scale. Scale is the font size. So my base scale, or my base font size, is 18 pixels. It's pretty big, but I don't have much to say on the site. So I made the font big, and it makes it so it takes up more room and it's easier to read, which is an added bonus. If you go to my global CSS, you'll notice I don't use font size anywhere, which is good, because you don't want to use a font size in your global CSS to override or overwrite your scale, or else that'll ruin the whole idea of the Typography.js. So that's good. That was I think I did that on purpose. I'm not positive, but I think I did. So if you go to layout.js, you'll see that I'm importing scale. And if you find for scale, you go down to scale 1.5. So what that is doing is taking my 18 pixels and it's timesing it by 1.5. So it's similar to rem, like rem files or rem. So you have the base font size, which will be used throughout the entire site unless you specify that you want the font size to be larger. So this is 1.5 of that. For my H1 tag would be 27, because 1 is 18 and then half of that is, so that's 27. 9 and 18, 27. It's basically that. And I know you can do more with it, but that's I think the main idea. So that is the basics, I guess, of my CSS. Nothing crazy. Style components, global CSS, using Typography.js. If something isn't rendering properly on your site, make sure to import your global file. That happened to me. I'm like, why isn't this working? This should be fine. I forgot to import it. And you don't have to use it anywhere, you just import, and it should work. So that's the basics of that. Now I wanted to discuss updates. So I'm going to be making updates to this. I've already made updates, and I want to share them, and I want to let you know. So I will still be making videos, small videos just like this until it's perfected, which may never happen. But I also want to make blog posts so you can read it and share it, and that way you don't have to watch this video, possibly boring video. Like one update, I already changed the title of my web page. So when you save it, it'll have a different name, and I've already updated this little image up here. So that'll be one update to come. Another update I want to discuss is images, using images in Gatsby. It's kind of cumbersome, it's a pain. So I want to talk about that, and I want to make a blog post on that. Just as you can see, these images right here, they're all different sizes. Not a big deal, because when I import my images, I'll make sure they're the right size, but it doesn't have to be that way. I can set it automatically. That will be a topic of discussion. Another thing I'm doing right now is adding a MailChimp, so you can email or subscribe to emails. I'm going to add that to my blog, and I want to show you how that's done, because it's kind of taxing or cumbersome as well. So I want to make a blog post on that. So a lot of things still to come. And of course, the fourth thing, I want to dive into the e-commerce and connecting e-com with Gatsby. I work in e-com. I want to focus on e-commerce and Gatsby. So that's kind of my main goal for this. If you enjoy those two things or want to learn more about those two things, which I don't think they're going away anytime soon. So I want to bring knowledge to the world and to myself selfishly. So on that note, I'm going to pitch my thing, my post. I'm going to be selling this theme with I'm not sure what platform yet, but I'm going to sell this, and it's always going to be free. So if you watch these videos, you can follow along. You can always download it on my GitHub. That'll be free. But for the non-technical, or if you don't want to worry about that, you can download this, or you can purchase it. It won't be expensive. I don't even know yet. I don't even know what platform, but I will have that possibility for you. And I will be making updates to this, and I want to make sure it's going to be perfect before to download it. So I want to make it as easy as possible for the customer to fill their information in, and everything will change, right? Ideally for them. So you don't have to follow along this whole tutorial if you don't want to. And also, I'm going to be adding a blog. As you've heard, the topics I'm going to be discussing are Gatsby and ecom. Those are probably the main two things. There's a lot in e-commerce. I work with SFCC every day, and I also want to dive into like Shopify. That's huge right now. WooCommerce, also a viable option. So I will have that on my website, which this website that you're looking at is live now. So if you go to my website, chrisshimmin.com, you'll actually see it. So there you go. And you can see the little favicon up there in the corner. I updated that, and down below, these are my versions. So if you click on V2, this is my second version of my site. So you can see how it's changed over the years. This is a small change. I added some new links, but yeah, I kept them. You should always do that. Keep your old versions so people know how far you've come. And I have my websites up and my YouTube videos. Click on that and it loads. Which this was a whole thing, trying to get a Gatsby video in a blog post. So I will be adding an email sign up. Feel free to add it, join or subscribe, I guess. And it's going to be on this page and definitely on each post. So thank you for watching, and stay tuned for more updates to come.